I also don't think the king was instrumental in this decision. It was very much pushed by William and the government.
But I didn't have much time with him, I suppose.
For years, the royal family kept his scandals hidden. But now, new evidence blows everything wide open. Prince Andrew's secret life isn't just embarrassing, it's downright explosive. Prince Andrew's story begins long before the headlines. The first signs appeared inside the walls of Gordonstoun School. Classmates remembered Prince Andrew not as a quiet royal, but as the loudest voice in every room. Rules meant little, and respect even less. Students recalled moments when Prince Andrew mocked others, bragging about royal status like a trophy. Teachers saw the same pattern: confidence that crossed into arrogance, charm that turned into command. While other students faced discipline for mistakes, Prince Andrew faced laughter or silence. This early behavior shaped a mindset, a belief that position could erase consequence. From school corridors to royal halls, that attitude only grew stronger.
I think this is just a little bit of smoke and mirrors at the moment. He's still on the line of succession. He's still on the royal website.
The world would later see the result of what happens when entitlement meets immunity. Years later, palace staff began to feel what schoolmates once saw. Footmen whispered stories about royal temper. A breakfast tray sent flying because the eggs were too soft. A servant shouted at because a door opened seconds too late. Palace workers described life under pressure, where perfection was never enough. Tea temperature, towel placement, even water level became matters of command. Staff carried thermometers to measure bathwater precisely, terrified of missing the mark. Security teams endured long waits in freezing weather, often left outside to remind them of rank. Every gesture reinforced control. Every demand reminded everyone who stood at the top. Behind gold gates, a quiet culture of fear replaced loyalty. And while the world saw royal smiles, those inside the palace saw temper that never cooled. But this was only the beginning of a much larger storm. Public appearances painted a different picture.
I'm sure he'll still be driving his cars saying the Duke of DOY on them.
Cameras captured Prince Andrew smiling beside diplomats, laughing with veterans, shaking hands with children. The royal mask looked flawless. Newspapers praised charm and confidence, calling Prince Andrew the modern royal face. But behind closed doors, palace aides cleaned up chaos. The illusion worked because no one inside dared to challenge it. Silence was safety. Truth risked careers. For decades, the palace managed the contrast. One image for the world, another for those who served.
And I had a lot of opportunity to go to the United States.
But quiet resentment was growing, and people closest to the crown started keeping notes, remembering moments, saving details. Every story stayed hidden, until historian Andrew Lowy came looking. Andrew Lowy spent 4 relentless years tracing the real story. The historian interviewed more than 300 people: royal employees, security officers, advisors, and longtime palace insiders. Each conversation added a new piece to a disturbing puzzle. Accounts overlapped with eerie precision. Staff described arrogance, temper, and disregard for anyone outside royal circles. Andrew Lowy's research revealed something deeper than personality flaws. It revealed a culture that protected power at any cost. Every testimony pointed back to the same conclusion. Prince Andrew's behavior was not random. It was consistent. The pattern stretched across decades. Lowy's book, entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York, became the first public record built entirely from the words of those who had stayed silent for too long. But the book only opened the door. What Lowy found next would pull royalty into dangerous territory. Royal connections carried prestige, but Prince Andrew began building relationships that sparked quiet alarm inside security offices. Meetings with powerful financiers, businessmen, and political figures grew frequent, often outside official schedules. Some relationships blurred lines between diplomacy and personal gain. Intelligence officers noticed unusual patterns, invitations extended by individuals seeking influence through royal access.
And I wasn't aware until the media picked up on it, because he never said anything about it.
Behind the scenes, reports started to pile up. Analysts feared that royal proximity could be used for leverage by those pursuing private interests. Prince Andrew continued traveling, attending events, and maintaining friendships that made security teams uneasy. Warnings circulated quietly through official channels, but little changed. Confidence became overconfidence. Authority turned into blindness. And when experts called the situation risky, royal influence dismissed the alarm. The question grew louder. What could go wrong when a royal connection becomes a global opportunity for exploitation? By the early 2000s, internal intelligence documents began labeling Prince Andrew a potential vector of influence. Officials worried that foreign figures could exploit royal connections to reach sensitive networks or business opportunities. Security briefings warned senior staff repeatedly. Every report urged caution. Every warning met resistance. Those monitoring activities described frustration, repeated defiance, continued visits, and disregard for security protocols. Prince Andrew seemed convinced royal status provided immunity from consequence. But inside intelligence offices, patience was running thin. Analysts began referring to the royal figure as a liability with diplomatic protection. Years passed, warnings multiplied, and every ignored message built pressure for exposure. Then, proof surfaced. Undeniable, time-stamped, and impossible to explain away. In October 2025, one message changed everything. A private email dated February 2011 appeared across global media outlets. Verification teams confirmed authenticity through digital forensics and cross-referenced metadata with accounts tied to Prince Andrew's staff. The message revealed direct communication long after public statements claimed separation from controversial associates. The tone of the message suggested continued loyalty and shared concern, contradicting years of denial. Newsrooms called it the smoking gun. Analysts called it a royal cover cracked open.
Victims are now going to go into Capitol Hill and talk. And so I think this was an attempt to get ahead of the story.
The leak shattered the narrative carefully built for over a decade. Every interview, every press statement denying continued contact now looked like deliberate misdirection. Within hours, headlines shifted from speculation to certainty. The world finally had evidence that denial had been false all along. And with that revelation, credibility crumbled. Not through rumor, but through digital proof no palace could erase. Public reaction exploded across television panels and online platforms. Analysts replayed every interview where Prince Andrew insisted connections had ended years earlier. Commentators dissected every sentence for contradiction. Social media amplified outrage. Royal watchers compared the event to past scandals, but found none this severe. Public trust eroded instantly. Polls measured the damage within weeks. Approval numbers collapsed into single digits. The exposure aligned perfectly with Andrew Lowy's research. Arrogance evolving into deception. For decades, public respect shielded the royal image. Now, respect had turned into disbelief. The revelation wasn't just about one email. It was about a pattern proven true by time, evidence, and public memory. But even this massive fallout wasn't the final blow. What followed next struck closer to the palace walls than ever before. Early 2025 brought a wave of first-hand accounts. Former palace employees, retired aides, and ex-security staff began speaking publicly for the first time. One housekeeper described being summoned to carry a pen already sitting on a nearby desk, a display of authority for its own sake. Another staff member recalled public humiliation during formal dinners for a minor table error.
I mean, he's still in Royal Lodge. He's never really had to pay any penalty for what he's done.
A third witness remembered Prince Andrew boasting that rules don't apply, while subordinates stood silent. These testimonies matched patterns Andrew Lowy had documented years earlier. Entitlement reinforced by royal protection. The difference now was exposure. Statements came on record, not in whispers. Each new voice added weight to a growing narrative that no palace statement could undo. The stories painted a clear image of command without compassion, privilege without gratitude, and a leader who never questioned conduct. With the silence broken, attention shifted to how the nation would respond. By September 2025, YouGov polls revealed numbers never seen for a senior royal. Only 5% of respondents expressed a favorable opinion. 87% viewed Prince Andrew negatively. 67% supported removal of the Duke of York title. Media commentators called the numbers historic collapse. Even the most loyal royal supporters withdrew defense. Experts compared this fall to the lowest approval points in royal history and found no precedent. Public patience ended. The idea of untouchable royalty dissolved into collective rejection. For generations, reverence protected the institution. Now, Accountability demanded a voice. The shift signaled more than scandal fatigue. It showed transformation in how the public measured royal worth. Behind palace walls, that message landed hard. The monarchy could no longer ignore the cost of silence. Inside the royal institution, tension grew sharper. Reports described private meetings where senior members debated consequences. Sources close to the palace confirmed frustration from Prince William, who saw continuing controversy as a threat to the monarchy's stability. Discussions turned to the remaining privileges still held by Prince Andrew: residence, title, ceremonial honors. Experts explain that removing titles required either parliamentary support or formal action by the monarch through letters patent. Historically, such moves were rare and considered extreme, yet internal voices began suggesting that the moment for drastic action had arrived. Andrew Lowy's insights indicated that even royal patience had limits. Once unity fractured, restoration became nearly impossible. What once seemed unthinkable now looked inevitable. The slow dismantling of a royal position that once stood untouchable. The combination of evidence, testimony, and public rejection pushed the situation to the edge. Palace schedules quietly erased Prince Andrew from official appearances. Invitations vanished. Public duties disappeared. Official statements offered polite explanations. Stepping back, personal time, private life. Behind those phrases lay complete isolation. For the first time, royal protection looked less like loyalty and more like damage control. Media cameras captured absence instead of presence. Royal events continued without mention of the once favored son. Silence replaced defense, and in that silence, the world saw acknowledgement. Quiet confirmation that the era of protection had ended. Every institution eventually faces a reckoning. For the royal family, that reckoning had a familiar face and a lesson written in headlines. Beyond the palace, the story carried a larger message. Power without restraint creates illusion. Illusion eventually demands reality. Andrew Lowy's research did more than expose behavior. It exposed a system that confused privilege for accountability. For decades, royal image stood above the question. But modern transparency changed the rules. Digital footprints, insider voices, and public access stripped secrecy of its strength. The fall of one royal figure revealed how fragile legacy becomes when truth catches up. This wasn't only about personality or scandal, it was about the danger of believing position equals immunity. The reflection extended beyond monarchy, into politics, corporations, and every system where reputation once outweighed responsibility. When silence protects power, exposure becomes inevitable. And when truth finally arrives, even crowns cannot block the light. Now the story stands at a crossroads. Conversations inside the palace continue quietly. Observers speculate about future announcements, title removal, reorganization of royal responsibilities, or further investigations into past dealings. Andrew Lowy continues collecting material for future publications. Royal watchers predict more revelations as insiders gain confidence to speak. The next chapter could reshape the monarchy itself. Will the institution act to preserve credibility, or will tradition win again? Public curiosity grows daily, waiting for the next move. The only certainty is that silence no longer guarantees protection. Accountability is no longer optional. Every viewer watching this story unfold holds part of that accountability through awareness and judgment. For decades, royal reputation seemed unbreakable. Every scandal faded behind ceremony, every controversy buried under tradition. But this time, evidence replaced rumor. Documentation replaced denial. Andrew Lowy's investigation and the courage of insiders changed the narrative forever. The lesson is bigger than one name. It's about what happens when institutions forget that respect must be earned, not inherited. Prince Andrew's downfall shows that truth always finds a path. Through witnesses, through archives, through voices no longer afraid. And once truth escapes, it never returns quietly. The crown may survive, but trust takes longer to rebuild. So the question remains, what matters more, protecting image or facing truth? Comment below what accountability should look like for power at any level. And if curiosity about royal transformation continues, watch the next video exploring how internal reform could redefine monarchy for the next generation. Because this story isn't finished. It's only the beginning of the consequences no crown can hide from.